Feels good to be here again. Huh?
It does.
Yeah.
So what did you do? You just breeze in here?
Just breeze in here. Yeah, that's right. I still have my jacket on, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, yeah, it's been a busy morning here, out there running errands. And how was your day today?
It was an interesting day. Our show is about today. We're going to talk about, what are we talking about? We're talking about.
You're asking me to remember that?
Oh, wake up!
Wake up! Oh yeah. Okay, wake up.
I didn't have my coffee yet, so
yeah,
I'm not. Wait.
You're gonna have to just deal with water here, Joyce.
So when you woke up today, you have a great routine in the morning. Yeah, tell everyone what you do, because I'm just so impressed.
Well, I wake up in the morning, and I made a concerted effort over the past year to especially. I've pretty much done this most of my life, Joyce, but over the past year, everything seemed to coincide with my faith, just getting deeper and deeper each and every year, for that matter, leading up to this point. But I get up in the morning, I do my prayers, and then I do my gratitude exercises. What am I grateful for? And who I'm going to get together with during the course of the day. So I'll pray for you and your family. I'll pray for the folks here that are doing the recording, Steph and Dave in the back here, and just people that I'm going to be coming in contact with, and developing that mental armor before I go out into the world. Because let's face it, the world's crazy right now. It's crazy in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of beauty out there too. It's all about where you look. And then I'll do my yoga and my Pilates exercises. So it's spirit, mind, body each and every day. So by the time I walk out of my room in the morning, 7 o'clock, 7:50, I have all that done. And I'll scurry down the hall, hang out with the kitty cats, hang out with my bride, feed the birds, and just, kind of plan out the day. But I don't want anything random to come into my life. I don't want to check emails or news right away.
Yes.
I want to dictate and be intentional about my day.
Right.
Because too many times people run up, they check the phone, they listen to the news, and then that impacts their day, and they're really playing from defense at that point.
Right.
I'd rather be offensive.
Right. Yeah, it's so perfect. And when you say you pray for people, you really do pray for people.
I see it all the time. So many people are hurting right now, and everybody you run into is battling something. So I try to spend more time doing that, and I love when God puts people in front of me that I can pray for or be good to. I really enjoy doing that.
Right.
How about you?
Well, it's funny. Our show is called, Wake Up, and we're going to talk about don't keep telling the same story over and over. And
Groundhog Day.
Yeah. And I think, not to keep referencing my books, but I think it was in my first book.
Where is your book?
That's okay.
Is it available now?
They both are. Starving Your Fears. But I think in Starving Your Fears, I wrote about, thank you for holding up my book.
Yeah, well, it's worth it. I read the whole thing.
Can you tell I like the color blue? And I'm wearing blue. And
hey, blue looks
you
good
love
on
blue
you.
too. Yeah. But I talk about whatever happens in your life, the most you should tell is like 3 people. And then be done with it. So the important people would be, your spouse, your doctor, your minister. But after that, if you keep telling the story, your brain doesn't know the difference between it happening now or happening in the past. And it keeps you in that state of agitation. So what most people don't know, except for good friends like you or my doctors, is that 3 months ago, I was in a pretty bad car accident. And so people think, Joyce's life is so great. She's so positive. So 3 months ago, it was a challenge. I got hit head on by someone really shocking. My grandson's in the car with me, ambulance ride, the whole thing. And the first thing I noticed is that afterwards, people who were there around there said, "Who was that person? Don't you hate him? Don't you hate him? What's his name?" And I thought, no, I didn't have any feeling like that. I thought he didn't begin his day thinking I'm going to go out and smash my own car up too.
Right.
So I prayed for him and the woman that was in the car with them. And I never saw them, you know. In fact, I don't remember too much about that, except for some reason, the ambulance ride. But I don't like to talk about it because I don't want to keep reminding my body and my mind that this terrible thing happened. It happened. I'm dealing with it. And last night was probably a really tough night in my life because for some reason, every 2 hours, I was jolted awake by a new pain shooting up into my head. And at one point, I thought, are you going to die? And then I thought, you know what? I'm too tired to go to the emergency room. So seriously, if I wake up in the morning, it must mean that I'm supposed to be here. So when I woke up this morning, I said, I'm alive. I guess I'm supposed to be here.
But I love how the fact is that you basically forgave this person.
Absolutely.
And that frees you up. And if we keep
Yes.
going over it and we start developing animus toward that person or
Yes.
anger, we keep reliving that accident over and over again.
Right.
That same situation over and over again. And I understand where people are they're well-meaning people. You know, aren't you upset about, but it doesn't really do any good.
Right.
It doesn't really do any good. So we're just better off just to forgive, move on. And we're not forgiving the offense. We're forgiving for our sake, just
Yeah.
to move on.
I thought it was a great test in life also because just because we have a strong faith, things happen.
Yeah, they do.
And it's always about how we react to things, you know, not even the circumstance that happened. And
That's a good point because when I learned this from a mentor years ago. When you respond, practice to respond, you're in control. But if you react, then the situation or the person is in control. So respond, and then you have that control. React, you put that situation or that
Yes.
person in control.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy to do because you know our initial reaction, being
Right.
humans with feelings, is anger.
yeah,
And some people watch you right now are saying, "How can you forgive? What are you saying? Easy? What are you crazy?" And I get that. I understand that. But at the same time, I've learned with wisdom over the years, you know, as we matured or gotten older, you know, just to roll with it. That things, like you said, things are going to happen. Rain falls on the just, rain falls on the unjust, like it says in the
yeah,
Bible.
absolutely. There was a time in my life for like years, I am embarrassed to say how many years, I was really angry with a person. I mean, it was pretty much hatred at times. And if I wrote it on paper and handed it to someone, why, you would all agree with me. Like, whoa. And not too long ago, I sat on my bed, and I'll never forget that moment. And I just shut my door. I sat on my bed, and I said, God, I am so tired of being angry at this person. I don't know what their whole life is like. I don't know why they are the way they are, but I'm releasing this to you. You handle this person. I can't. And from this moment on, and this I said this, from this moment on, I will never speak ill of this person again. I will send love. I let it go. And within 48 hours, I got an email from this person. Years I haven't received an email. And the opening line was, Dear Joyce, I have no idea what happened between us, but I am sure it was my fault.
Wow.
Is there any way, you know, we could get together? I wrote back, absolutely. And when that person walked in my house, we embraced, and it's just done.
What a healing.
I couldn't.
What a healing.
Let me tell you, John, this went on for 20 years.
That's a long time.
No,
20 years.
It was 20 years. I was telling that story to anyone who would listen, to anyone in my circle.
Right.
You know, to the point where they would say, "Oh, how's that going?" And they heard all these stories and everything, but I just got sick of it. But look at the miracle.
Within 48
That was a
hours.
It was in 48
Wow.
hours.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened between us, but I'm sure it was my fault. And really was, can you forgive me? And now, if you were to tell me any part of that story, I am like Teflon. It doesn't even make sense to me. I just have complete love for that person. Right. And other people will speak ill of this person at times, and I'm quiet. Right. I don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And I just said, the most I'll say is I don't feel that way, anymore.
Yeah, and that's one thing I try not to get myself lured into, to your point there is when I hear people speaking ill of people, I don't want to be drawn into the drama and the gossip. Because if they're gossiping about that person and speaking ill of them, chances are they're speaking ill or gossiping about me. Now, how many times have you had people go up to you and say, just between you and me? Mm-hmm. And we know they said that to several other people.
Right.
Right? Just between you and me.
Although when I say it to you, I do mean it.
True.
And you know what I love what you say to me? You say you, me, and Patty.
Right.
And it's like, of course.
Yeah, because my wife and I are one.
Yes.
And that's a good point, because when people do say that to me, I say, listen, the only person I'll tell is my wife.
Right.
And that's okay. They expect that.
Yes.
Expect that.
Yeah.
But typically, a lot of people, and the people that are prone to gossiping. Maybe I should phrase my answer that way.
I know.
I know. But you're right, and because you've heard through the grapevines some things they've said, just between you and me, and somebody else has repeated the same thing to you. I always tell people, if you say that to me, I guarantee you it will never get back to you.
Yes.
Ever.
You are so trusted.
Ever.
No, you're like my priest in the confessional. You really are.
Father John.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned.
Yeah, they call me at the gym Hallmark Johnny. Hallmark Johnny.
I love that.
Oh,
you
thanks.
Are. No, you are a Hallmark movie.
Steph in the back and the control room, you can edit that part out there, all right? Okay. Yeah. Right.
No, because a lot of people think, which we talked about before, is John really that way all the time? You're very upbeat.
I have my moments like anybody else.
But you listen to people too. Mm-hmm. That's a gift. Mm-hmm. That's a gift. And you hear them, and I see the empathy in your eyes. And when you say you're going to pray for someone, like I said, you really pray for them and you hold them in your heart. And that really is a gift. And we can all do that. We may not be born that way. I wasn't. I think it was something that I had to learn and work on, and until it becomes a habit. So practice it daily. Like, wake up. You have the power. You have way more power than you realize. You have the power to turn off the news. You have the power to think better thoughts. Don't be drawn into the negative. There's little in life probably that we have control over, but the old saying is you control your thoughts.
And you control your thoughts, you control your
words.
Day. You can manifest your reality in so many ways, just by the words you speak over yourself.
Yeah.
And the words you speak and the way you wake up in the morning, like we had talked about just moments ago. Just be intentional about your day.
Right.
Because there's just so much chaos. There's so many people that want to sabotage your day or vie for your time. And that's all good, but you've got to really protect yourself, too, and protect your time, and protect who you're with. You could pray for everybody and love everybody, but you also have to protect your time.
Yeah, you do. And, I would suggest to everyone to, I wanted to say try for a day, not to be judgmental, but how about you try for 5 minutes? Sometimes that could even seem hard. Little increments. Be mindful of that every day, because every time you judge or you hate, you send anger, you lose energy. And I am very protective. I will not let that happen to myself.
Smart, too, because the thing is, a lot of diseases, I believe, based on what I've read, comes from the term, disease really means lack of ease. Mm-hmm. So when you have that lack of ease, I really believe it manifests on the body.
Right.
And if we hate and we use all that, there's only so much energy we have in our body, only so much energy in our cup. So let's fill it up with positivity the most we can.
Yes.
Now, let's face it, we're not, none of us are perfect. We all judge by nature.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we do that. We see someone and we judge them within 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds. But we just need to kind of correct our thought a little bit and say,
Yeah.
before we judge, and look at ourselves. We're far from perfect.
Right.
We have a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
And I admit that all the time. I have a lot of flaws.
As long as we're alive, we're gonna have a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
But if you find yourself getting tense, and because I work with people with phobias and anxiety and everything, just as simple as reminding yourself to breathe. So even right now, whether you're driving and listening, don't close your eyes, of course, but relax your shoulders, because so many times we have our shoulders up to our ears and we don't realize it. But relax your shoulders and take in a belly breath, because here's what happens. When you breathe what they call thoracically, up here, you're sending a message to your brain that you're in trouble. So your brain doesn't know the difference between, that old fight or flight in caveman days.
Yes.
There was a time where we, human race, was running from danger. I mean, real danger. And we needed that extra adrenaline flowing through so we could run and get away.
It happens in my house every now and then when I tick off my wife. and she's got the curling iron. I run like, you know what?
And that's when you need the adrenaline.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. But the moment you get your breath down into your belly and think about a dog or a cat when they're sleeping, or a toddler, their bellies are going up and down. And the only time they're breathing from up here is when a baby's crying, a dog is barking, a cat's meowing because they're upset. So we're supposed to be breathing normally through, our abdominal area, through our diaphragm. And when you do that, you send a message to your brain that you're okay. And you couldn't have stressful thoughts or an anxiety, panic attack, because your brain shuts off the valves to the adrenaline and to the cortisol, all of that.
Right.
And then you just begin to feel relaxed. Now
The serotonin and the dopamine,
there
all
you
those
go.
good feeling chemicals.
Yes, because actually we're not getting up and running. So let's say you're sitting at your desk and you're very stressed about work, and your brain starts sending out like this adrenaline, and you start to feel really uncomfortable.
Done by 5 o'clock, my boss is going.
No, your heart starts racing, your palms get sweaty, because your brain is saying, do something.
Right.
You're not doing anything. You're not running, because we're not running for danger. Hopefully, we're not running from danger all the time. So the only way to counteract that is to say, I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'll show you a really quick.
And trick, that's
Quick
good.
trick.
That's all right. Quick trick, quick. Whatever. This is organic, folks. This is organic. Nothing, slick about this, right?
Nothing.
And while you're talking about that, I heard a ding on my phone, so I'm not sure if I...
But while you're
down
doing
there.
that,
While
I'm
you're
just
doing
going to
that.
show you.
There we go.
If you close off one nostril, I do this in the car, and I'll just like lean like this, so it doesn't look like you're picking your nose or anything. but if you just close off one nostril, and you take a breath in through that nostril, out that nostril, it automatically makes you diaphragmatically breathe. It just automatically does that. So, and you can alternate 3 times on each side, and you're just going to feel better. I guarantee you're going to feel better. So just a little trick
I do that in the morning, too, the breathing exercises after reading your book with that, too. I don't necessarily always,
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
but I just love taking that there
Yes.
and just breathing.
Right.
And anytime I feel stressed or a little bit, I do that. And I'll do it 5 to 10 times, and all of a sudden, like you had said, I feel so much better.
I read a book years ago. That's where I got this from, like The Art of Breathing. And I was fascinated by this, that we are meant to be breathing in through our nostrils and out through our nostrils. And that's why we have nose hairs, because it captures the pollen and the dust and all of that. There's a purpose for that. In fact, the only time we should be breathing like this is when we're speaking. And even when we're eating, we should be silent. And I know in many other countries, it's very sacred when they're eating. And a lot of times what happens in restaurants, people choke. Why are they choking? They got a mouthful of food and they're laughing and
Right.
talking, and
Yes.
it gets sucked in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also very mindful of that. I like to be really quiet when I'm eating, and be mindful even before you put that first fork in your mouth to say thank you. Thank you for the food on my table. Thank you to all the people it took to bring me
Yes.
this food. And it just slows things down and makes you feel good. So wake up to that fact within yourself, and you're going to feel a lot better in life.
It's hard to be negative when you're grateful. And that's a real good point about the food.
really-
When you're sitting down, Patty and I will do our prayers, before we eat at night, thanking God for the food. But we also thank, the Amazon driver comes up the driveway.
Yes.
We thank him. We pray for
Yes.
him. We pray for the gentleman who's, emptying our garbage cans.
Yes.
Thank him for all of the mailman. You
Right.
find everywhere you go, thank you so much for the cashier. Thank you so much for that waiter, waitress. Thank you so much for the chef in the back, cooking our food at the restaurant. When you're in a state of gratitude, it really kind of brings you back into the center.
It
And
does.
it automatically puts you in a good mood again. Again, it's not easy, but we have to be intentional.
You have to be intentional.
Intentional.
Right. Right. And it's like, I always think of gratitude like a bucket of ice water you're throwing on a fire. It just puts it out. Whatever you're upset about, when you stop
Right.
to be grateful, it just calms everything
Better
down.
the bucket of ice on the fire than throwing it on you.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't be so grateful if that was thrown on
No,
me.
I wouldn't want that up. But I wouldn't want to sit in the fire either.
Even though people do say cold plunges are really good for you. Great
I
for
kn-
the immune system.
Yes.
Really
Yes.
are. But that's a whole other episode.
Yes. We have
Cold
to
plunges.
have my friend Kasim on our show because he does that every week
Oh, I
and
heard.
chops the ice.
Oh, nothing
and
but
goes
good things
in.
about it.
Yes, yes. And he's quite the healthy mental and body wise.
Yes.
And he wrote a book. We should get him on here. Oh my
we
gosh.
should. We should.
He wrote a children's book, but this children's book really is for adults as well.
Right.
Yeah. So are we going to wake up to gratitude every day and don't tell the same story? I think that's the basis of the show is what story are you telling that maybe you're identified with? Oh, that just reminded me of Carolyn Mace. And a lot of people pronounce it Miss, but she pronounces her last name as Mace.
Oh, yeah?
But it's MYSS.
Ah.
And 30 years ago, I read
ago.
a book of hers, and she said, and she's a great intuitive. I don't know exactly what her title is, but she's certainly an author, a speaker, and she's pretty tough with people. And she said she was in a restaurant and she saw some people she knew at the table, and they introduced her around. And the woman said to her, "Hi, my name is, whatever. My name is, Sarah, and I'm recovering from cancer and blah, blah, blah." And Carolyn said to her, "Why did you feel it was necessary to introduce yourself as a cancer patient or in recovery?" And she said, "Because I am." She says, "No, you are more than that.
Yes.
Like, why don't you drop that story?"
That's not your identity. You're battling cancer right now, but that's not
Right.
who you are.
Right. So I think that would be our suggestion to people. I think what follows the words "I am" is really important.
Extremely important,
Yeah.
that I am a victor, not a victim.
Right.
Say that to yourself each and
Right.
every time when you wake up in the morning. I'm a victor, not a victim. And so many times we focus on negative when we say things. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, how can you? Take the T out of can't and the apostrophe and make it a can. What we say over ourselves really means so much.
Right.
We have enough of the world out there being against us. We need to be
Right.
for ourselves.
Yes. And have fun with that.
Yeah.
If someone comes over to you and says, "Hi, it's nice to meet you. Who are you?" Just say, "I am grateful to meet you.
Right. Yeah.
That's who I am."
Sure. Yeah. And And I always say all the time, when people reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram and friend me up, I'll say, thank you so much for the reach out. I'm very grateful. And like my wife and I always say, you can always gain a new friend.
Mm-hmm.
And people love that. It's just a warmness about it. But that's true. And we can
Yes.
all gain a new friend.
Right. And we want to gain you as our friend. So
Will you please be our friend?
Yeah, if you like listening to us, like us, subscribe, and tell people about us, because we want to spread joy, of course, but we want to spread peace within you, because then that spreads to other people. And we need this now more than ever. The world is always going to need it.
Yes.
I look up biographies way back that took place in the 30s or 40s. There's always strife going on.
Every time's been tumultuous.
It has, but during the most tumultuous times, I think the good rises up also. So be part of that campaign.
Like I said, the cream always rises to the top. That
Yes.
old,
Yes,
thing.
it does.
It really does. But you can find us on YouTube and iHeart and I believe
Whatever. Just Google
Spotify,
us.
Apple. Just Google. And tell a friend about us, please.
Yes.
We really appreciate that.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for checking out What's Good with John and Joyce, and a lot of love for you and your family.
Bye for now.
Bye.